Alright, Tabachimbi, Che, that's on you go on to be Chido, Yamlen Chia de Carelamne, Nabo, Jam Ninjocom, then a Jam Ninji Jela, and some Jetam Chicken, San Yoko Topo Show, some big that Janju Sim, some diade. The Negi Janju Sim Gomse Jela, that's on you go on to be Chido, Garchi or Sene, and the Jims of Passion to Yamlen Chia de. The names are done to get Dinane Dang, Kissing, Jimbinium, Sutrinium, Nesubinium. And Digo Chimbada Trim Yugoshi, Sadang, Subinium Goshi, and Anima, Pachet Sarsubara Chatigare, all those Chinekis in Digoshi.
Good evening. So we're continuing to look at the Mahayana Dharma. The Mahayana Dharma is which has as its goal the attainment of Buddhahood. So the cultivation of the determination to become a Buddha for the sake of others comes about in dependence on the prior cultivation of love and compassion for all sentient beings without exception. And then when that strong determination arises within one to become the most skilled of guides, a Buddha, so as to be able to lead all beings skillfully to the state of enlightenment, to the attainment of their own enlightenment, one generates bodhicitta. Having generated bodhicitta, one then engages in the activities of bodhisattvas, and that's the trainings of the 6 perfections. So amongst the 6 perfections, those of generosity, ethical restraint, patience, joyous perseverance, concentration, and wisdom, we're now looking at the 3rd, that of patience. And we've looked at it now already over 3 preceding weeks, with this now being the 4th week, looking at the practice of patience.
Dine Zada Suva Sedi, Jiki, Sim Control Madame, Sim Machupa, Sim Yomobe, Shawado Masonwa, Sim and Ransu to Badilla, and they take a Sevignam Sigurwa.
To define then patience, the meaning is it's a mental activity and it's a mind that remains undisturbed in the face of adversity. So when one is encountering problems and difficulties, one's mind isn't afflicted, for example, becoming frustrated or annoyed, but remains undisturbed in the face of adversity.
That's a very Dela and Jiggy Nubala Jimmy Beseba Sada and Dunga Darling Yeseba and the Chelang Yesem Yuseba setting at Subijik de Sum Kissing that do your way you are Masona.
In preceding weeks, we've been looking at the 3 divisions of patience. The first being the patience of disregarding harm done to you by others. The second is a patience of willingly accepting suffering that arises in one's own continuum. And then the third was the patience of conviction with respect to the Dharma.
Kissing that on dashes that in my Jeremy Chegi, Sonjaki 60 Marsh and you do. That in a Jela Miss, Seba Thubten Namla Yangi Chok, Numo Dunye, Gatu Kunji Pull, Shedan Lautre, Dalak, Namgating, 6 of Sunla Saviki, Gochai, Tetereshin, Socho Gochala, Nambanaso, Suji Compressa, CS.
We'll resume then where we finished last week, which is near the bottom of page 42. So as always, the section concludes with the verse from Lama Tsongkhapa's brief Lam Rim, the Song of Spiritual Experience, that is being commented on in the preceding paragraphs. So you have the translation before you at the bottom of page 42, but I'll just read out an alternative translation, which is a little bit more literal and closer to what Genla will explain. Patience is the finest ornament of those filled with strength. It is the greatest fortitude of counteracting the torment of the afflictions. Against its enemy, the snake of anger, it is a Garuda soaring in the sky. Against the weapon of harsh words, it is the strongest armor. Knowing this, by all possible means, habituate yourself with the armor of supreme patience.
Seba Thubten Namla Yangi Chok said, Dangan Jugi, Seba said, Yen Nani, Yen Chok Yubari, Sachi. tanda sik da dordi rashine disigorwa seba top den chi seba nuba chenpo chi nganzu nyamlen je to bayina denege seba di da nganzu gengi na ne gen chodo gyuba diri saji gen yaksho diri esigor.
The first line again, patience is the finest ornament of those filled with strength. So the practice of patience also serves to lead the practitioner to be filled with strength. And amongst the many ornaments that practitioners have, patience is said to be supreme.
yen chodo gyuba sede disigorwa da nganzu ki jidin na ane chike genche mungu dayo sera dang dorje palamda rinpoche rikpe chik mushivu dabayi na ane yen stayorwa di dabayi na ane gari yorase na nganzu dagay mikron ya chike ngal ya dini chik gong chimuri na chimbo genche dayo sempike semli ya bobo dang galang la chik yodirwa da 용거로 디기로 진짜 땅아 주게 저 디기고 시거로 진짜 디기로 지 용도로 되네게 셈나 가라라 디보지 미션다게 따면 오 콜야오네 베 마시 gen체하고 슈다샤 산비 미네 현대에는 안지 이문버로지 이 이문 깨로 자고 거기다 지게야 세라다 근데 림보지 암조다 림보지리다 베 지겐 공침부 슈디게 따도와 산비게 되네게 미통나야 안지게 이문 깨로자 소소이네 안지슈 다여 산비게 안네 지기 로디보려서 소소이네 셈나 가라라 디기 중고로 와당아서 넘겨네 지당 지소나려야 돼.
Generally, in terms of ornaments, this would be jewelry that one wears, ways to beautify and in terms of how we present ourselves to others. So whether one wears jewelry made of diamonds or other jewels or whatever it may be, one wears these so as to present ourselves in a particular way that leads to confidence rising within us, so that in particular social settings we feel that we're presenting ourselves in the appropriate way. And this leads to confidence rising and feeling that others see us as attractive, as being someone suitable to be in such an environment. This gives us confidence. And then others perhaps will praise us or see us in a way that it brings some happiness to us. So this is why people generally will wear jewelry, or the term we have here, ornaments in society.
지소나리아 겐다야 인지미지다 림보치리에 고금이다 가시에는 오늘 지게 내내게 지게 셈쟁기 아니 지게 라조로다 지 채워로다 되네 따네 지슈치 따네 어느 지게 지역이 아니 지게 자조로지 되네 따네 주 따네 직 따네 용도와 암저디 와다 누구 되다 되네 다 광어서 겐다 광어서 나라 어떤 슈치 따여 선비기 겐제 슈 따여 선비 광어서냐 안 갈랑라 지 용거로 와 양 코로나 중에 내한 집비기 코로나 중에 내한 집비 미디기다 현다디게 넌 코시오 다샤선 베야지 될야 야고도 선비 이모라 게야 용거로 봐 인지미지다 겐다야 될 림보시리 다 인고야지입니다 디 멤베다 게사 다디나나 지제디 림보시리 따고로 와다.
As from what I observe in society, the jewelry people wear isn't limited to precious stones. People sometimes wear flowers or have animal products such as horns or bones, piercings in many different places. So however people choose to ornament themselves, they do so for their own pleasure. They do so to fit in with social norms or with one's group's norms. And they do so to bring happiness to themselves and to build connection and relations with others. So there is an underlying motivation behind whatever people choose to ornament themselves with.
나디니게 세르기 괜찮다 림보치리 수수볼 먹고 따야 되게 다 되니게 따인 선비게 소소레디와 거울에 여 지기여데 에 셈제지에 용고래 그래서 셈제지 오데 구마레네 꼬아지 케미어 선비게 안 되니게 셈제지에 용데 난 니게 냥아제 용아지래 구마 가시기 안 되니게 괜찮다게 초야게 된다라 에는 속 줘야 냥아 용으로 냥아제 여디바 제고래 되니게 지다 되니게 세르기 괜찮슈 다베는 소소라나 따인 선비게 때 가라라 디기에 용고래 이네 델야 냥아제 용아게 여디바 제고로 봐.
whatever jewelry one may be wearing, whilst this will bring some confidence and some joy to one's mind, often there is behind, at the back of one's mind, a little bit of apprehension, a little bit of worry. And this could be if the jewelry one is wearing has great financial value, and therefore one is scared about losing it or having it stolen, or it may perhaps not have great financial value, but has strong emotional value, and therefore one would be nervous about losing it because of its sentimental value. So even though wearing this, one feels one fits in or maybe stands out, and therefore has confidence and some joy comes to oneself, at the back of one's mind though, there may be some apprehension.
마도 genche tawa digi shengi nyoba cheba dan rang le semne kanga choba na digi genche digi ane tawa digi nganzulya kanga setu ya me bare da dinza da seba komba ina shengi nyoba che mi shenda gi sosulya nyoba ki we na nyoba ki we ne dan delya dungala jimeni be seba sedi sosulya ane chige delya khoro ma pa malawa che semle shishi che dine seba kom tuba ina ane Bendigo söba kombayna sosole dine söba digi da söba digi chodo gyubare ese genche nane gen chodo gyubare karasene genche dine taba digi sedan rimbuchi taba digi dyose digi orde ine ya digi ane nyenga sosole kanga de nyenga je so jo ye nyenga yore dine zada söba kombayna dine ge kanga mere ese 제가 söba komba söba ko gen chodo gyubare 마제 dine söba kombayna dade söba dine komyodu gomba dilatene dadi negaptela sosola digi semlheshishi digi yobada ane jenleya minyoba ane minyobache an digi kewachima samtawaine sewo kombe digi debu digi kewachima ine ane 저기 digi yoyakyu ane ya tarba 탐지 kimbe 고방 토비에 samtawaine sanji 고방 토비에 토야리야 다 녀주고 sanji 고방 토비 규세고래 탈비 고방 토비 규세고래스 지단 디네사 세바디 genyu chodo gyubar negap digi yuwa maze maombana digi 띵기 대화 토비 규체고래스 지단 디네사 세바디 gen nane da gen ngazo digi tekengi gen digi testeba naji digi tebade 가리지고 서버 공부하는 디기다 디기 약속도 되고 그래서 원래 초도 교발해서 연 초도 교발해서
the general kind of jewelry or ornaments that people wear in the world and value in the world, whilst this does bring some joy to the mind, and having a joyful mind, happiness is what we desire. Of course, this is very temporary, very short term, in that we may need, often want to replace or update the jewelry that we wear. And moreover, together with the confidence and happiness that comes with wearing jewelry, there may be this apprehension, or even anxiety in the back of one's mind. But the ornaments that is being referred to here, patience, there is no downside to wearing the ornament of patience. There is no downside at all. There's no need for worry or apprehension or anxiety if one's mind is relaxed, calm, and spacious. This ornament of patience, it keeps our mind calm and spacious in the face of adversity, whether that adversity is coming from encountering others and they're acting towards us either physically or verbally in an abusive manner, or the mind of patience comes into play in relation to our own inner turmoil. In both cases, when one is patient, one's mind stays peaceful and calm. And this brings, of course, immediate happiness, temporary happiness for ourselves, as well as all those that we interact with. Others will know us as being relaxed and calm, and that in our presence, they can have confidence that we will not take out a bad mood on them, or if we take out our bad mood on a patient person, we can have confidence that they won't respond in a similar way. So there's temporary benefit to ourselves and others, and then in terms of long-term benefits in terms of future lives. Patience, being a virtuous mind, creates positive karma. When that ripens in our future lives, there's a happiness comes. And moreover, patience is a key attribute to our spiritual development. Through cultivating the mind of patience, the attainment of our long-term spiritual goals, in particular liberation and Buddhahood, these come ever closer. So for these reasons, patience is seen as a supreme ornament and incomparable to worldly ornaments.
That's anybody, no more do you got up when pulls.
Then the second line, it is the greatest fortitude counteracting the strength of the afflictions.
Then no more do we got up when you pull city, then no more do we sing out no more big wonky house like Ganga Cheodu, Anzulia, Di no more by the Ganga de Sueg, Dondalan, the Tablam Damara Chigura, Bim Mishengi, Anzulia, Chiki, Ganga Chevena, Anzuki, the Ganga di Mayaki, Dondala, Ganga say along the Karchigorsene. Pale Tubujagura, Tubujata, the Chigura, Chizan, and the Tubujaka, no more say. The main begin Nazulia, and the Chige, Nenazi, Jena, and then Azuki, Chikne, Nazara, Chigon, Supolia, and the no more body pa, Chicken Nazadi Gasore, Nazuli, same Makiba, the no more ongi, Tangazo, Controta, Chatangi ongi, same Makiba, Chikanga, Shu chair, and the niggy, same. And that same Shumba Yoyada, same Shumba Yoya, the Naga Dunga Darling, you said sometime, and the niggy, the Jalcasa, Dunga, same Shumba, Ganga Shu, Nanzu Karchi or Sene, Dunga say, Ganga say, Tablamlea, and Chantunga, Siemens, Mensayada, the niggy recroach Manguchia, and the Madana, and the Chiga Rashi Jayaro, Chagorwa, the niggy Chigora, Chizangan to get Tablam, Dunga Nyomo, Dunga Ganga Lady, Mishengi, Nazu Ganga Tedu. De Dunga di Pa Doyage, Langan to Pa Tupujayada. So Sugan Sem Makibata, Gama Shuji, Leo de Gala, Sem Shumjit in the Leo de Andelia, and Jiggy, Nazuki Ganga de Seala, and Jiggy Chara Tuyada, Siemens Seada, Undusine, and the Nungorva. This so Tablam bread in the Chigor, the Inaya, the Sogeta, there's a Pemba Yon Sigre Mado, and the Dingy, Gedina, Pemba Yung Marca Digi. Benechara Tumbaina, Simensavan, the Denagap de la Di Nubadi, you may pick up La Chana Rising pick up, doing at Meva Semnes, Chige, Matamba Meva Suesha, and the Ganga Meva Chagore, in a Jambaro Chipa, Meva Suesha Chanta Simi. The divine D Simen that Chang Nubadi Eche, Nuba Yedu, Yan Shinji, Yan Gangadi, Leurua, Chesandiniza, and Digi, as Ganga de Nagapte, Sringlia, called Meva Sutugore, Meva Sugor, the Inea, Meva Yapos Chago Mare, and the Condor is large, Mishandego, Never given, and Diganga Doyala, Panova Palia, Tupujap Chigorte, Digi, Nazulia, Ganga de Setugo Marchesa, the Ganga, Dion Anzugi, that Numo Dumwiki, Numo Ganga Ted, Digi Gatu. Certain the Liang as a Jitin Banana to see the Pichit and Guru, I think I was okay, and then as a Habo Chagurua.
Patience is the greatest fortitude counteracting the torment of the afflictions. So the afflictions, mind such as anger, jealousy, and pride, it's these that cause us to suffer. And there are many temporary antidotes to these. There are many temporary antidotes within in the Buddha Dharma, and of course there are many temporary antidotes that people in the world, in society, encourage one to employ. So for example, if someone acts towards us in an unwanted manner, maybe speaking to us in an abusive manner and so forth, then generally in society one is expected to perhaps stand up for oneself and respond in kind. And this is seen as an antidote to the suffering. When someone acts to us in an unwanted way, a disturbed mind, an afflicted mind arises within us. And it's this, the arisal of this mind and this dominance of this mind that causes our suffering. And therefore, the general habitual way to respond is in kind, with a hope, with the expectation that will lead the situation to calm down, to dissipate, and our suffering to ease. Or another illustration, if someone is suffering from a severe illness or intense pain, then our way of thinking about or relating to that physical suffering, this too can amplify our suffering. If we are thinking about our pain in a way that where we're grasping at our pain and our illness, this serves just to strengthen the suffering that we experience. So here in society, one is encouraged perhaps to have a few drinks and just to relax, or maybe take a medication such as opioids to try and lessen the pain and forget about the pain. Maybe take sufficient so that one just falls asleep and forgets about the pain. So these kinds of techniques have some slight temporary benefit. We may, if we respond in an aggressive way, stand up for ourselves, the other person may be intimidated, may back down. Or similarly, if we have a few drinks when we're feeling ill, or we take strong medication, then maybe for a little while we will forget about our troubles. But these benefits are slight, and they are not at all long-lasting.
Nyomo dungwe ka tuple nyomo be tendishi teje kanga te tuple de kanga de pa ka tuya se ro ka tupsi de nyomo dungwe ka se nyomo be pa je nyomo be onge kanga te de kanga di tupse de pa ka tuya de se ro tupsi de je za di ga de tuya yo dan da la siman sa da chang dong ya da ane de je an pa tu bu je ya di so zu ge nyomo be dungwe ge kanga di ka tuya yo dan da la ma zo tablam di ji go ro wa je za di gi da so penpa yung sikimada namsa ane kasa lam digi ane nyangja digi de ane digi penle nyege maa yore siko chego jesa di nyomo pa kaya ke kanga tuya di tablam di yabu ma re siko wada.
Reading the line again, it is the greatest fortitude counteracting the torment of the afflictions. The illustrations I'm giving here are the general techniques in society for counteracting the torment of the afflictions. Because from the Buddhist perspective, what is causing us suffering is not explicitly the words of others, the actions of others, or even the illness, but it's primarily the way we think about it. And when the way we think about it is in an afflicted way, this is what causes our suffering. The technique then to deal with perhaps anger arising within us, or an obsessive self-concern about one's own situation, the worldly technique would be either to respond in an aggressive way, or take strong prescription medication or alcohol. And again, so these antidotes or techniques that society encourages one to engage in, there may be some temporary benefit, but if whatever temporary benefit follows doesn't last, it quickly recedes, and the torment once again arises. And not only that, perhaps almost no benefit or no benefit at all comes, and this technique just is ineffective.
Zanda nyomong bige tenigi kanga te teni kanga de tuya katup yaksho de karelan sebe komya de teni katup yaksho de seba de katup kunji tenigi nyomong be tuya kanga ge sel ya kun labna mango tabla mango yebe kiswa dinane da kunji se dang di changme nane da 풀루 중화서 풀루저다 약쇼de 시고다 약쇼de sebe nyamde de 시고라 katup sebe nyamde jeadi da nyomong peke kanga cheyo du kanga de seya ki kupa kanga sosugi kanga semla kanga ka tuye ki ta nyamle yaksho de ta sebe nyam tablam yaksho de sebe komya de res sebe katup de res ore kunji pul se dang dinagi nane pulu juwa yaksho de res ore.
Both in society and in Buddhism, there are many techniques for counteracting the torment of the afflictions. But amongst all of these techniques, the very best, the supreme, is patience. And that is the meaning of the full line. Patience is the greatest fortitude, counteracting the torment of the afflictions. So amongst all of the antidotes to our suffering, patience is supreme.
ko sebi nyamlen chele kanga karkari mo del papegi sebi nyamlen chida dus samno ta ta khaga chagoro bin ngazo samno ta sebi nyamlen je dangbo sebi nyamlen ngazo kanga mate nyele na ngazo gi dus chene karche gorsne semle a jeba che samno ta du chene sebi sam ta chen dus komya semle komya de sebi komya sebo komya denige dunga le de bene ta shengi sosolya dunga chin 직sup시야 봐도 소설을 견제지야다 소설이야 지기 뉴스체는 예도 따야다 되니게 강아지야기 이바이나 땅안서 세보 검랍디 인지미지 따나 세보 검에서 용케고래라고 말해 지사 소설 세보 검랍디 팔로 코로 말하지 샘 회식이 되토버 제고래서 그래 니 되토버 제고래서 코로 말하지 코로 라바이나 안 미전다게 강아지비 갑로 소설에 샘 투죠 코로 라이도 소설에 강아 망아지기래서 안 디기 Kanba Tsukzupta, Namjurdukjada, and Lugi Jebangamba Palechine, and Digama Chesa, she hangi never Tsukzupshad and Gunjada, didn't Jebana, Karja Horson, Sem Pala, Koromalawache, Sem Motuba, Koromalamba due to a Jegore, Esida, Tingajile, that the Sebakum Najikirua, Tule, never give enough.
These points that we've then looked at now are to once again encourage oneself to see the benefits, the qualities of patience, so as to give rise to an aspiration to become deeply habituated to patience, so that one can respond to life's hardships with a patient attitude. And the way to cultivate a patient attitude is when the mind is calm and relaxed and spacious, in other words, not when we're facing a hardship or an onslaught from others. When the mind is relaxed and spacious, that's when we cultivate our habituation to a patient way of responding. And the way that one cultivates a habituation to a patient way of responding is to use analytical meditation, to use the investigative tools of analysis and investigation. So firstly, one generates a sense of, intentionally generates a sense of curiosity. How does my mind work? How do I respond naturally in certain circumstances? And here in our meditation, we recall instances where patience would have been an ideal response, but we were not so. So we perhaps recall a time when someone spoke to us in an abusive manner, and we think, how did we respond? What arose within us? And then how did we react to the feelings, to the minds that were arising within us? How did we respond? And what was the outcome of that? And especially there where one is using illustration, where one responded in kind, one stood up for oneself, put the person back down, and we then call to mind, how did we feel when we were perhaps angry at the time? And when we responded in that harsh manner, how did the other person react? Did the situation become calm and peaceful? Did they respond again in an even stronger way? In other words, did the conflict just become even stronger? So here, what we're doing is first having generated now the wish to become a patient person, then using investigation and analysis, we call together a mind and an illustration where we didn't respond with patience, seeing the faults rather of anger, and thereby, again, having now first generated a wish for patience, we see the faults of anger.
And Shen Yi Suzup Sheva, that Shen Yi Sula never give a lap how Koromala to Gores and Subacomia did, Shen Dungala Chin, never let Jimmy Subasa, Koromala to the same Lushishi to you did it. Then Dinig Lushishi to be a la, some Lokartangure, Lamnanda, Ganis to Ladu, dealing young and some diet shower, Gimzen some dangore, Gimzen some Lokartangure, Delia, that. Pashogi Miji Tsusupshe, Neva Delia, and the Ganesam Dawson. Mikola, Middle Bang, meeting all the Gunji and all the Tsusushi, meeting Duja Jigusan, Middle Gunja Tabet, some Dashabena, Mandalam Sebocum 2 Mare, Colia Corner League, Sebocum 2 Mare. Then the middle Karsam Dawson, meeting Malia Gunji Jeba, and Tsusushi, the Karsin Shigure, Saj, Jumsen, some Dane, middle Coronasia, Asta. kola samnalo kongro keshas. Chesanda kongro kewa inza, kongro kewa la rangwa yomar midele, ta kongro mikorong kongro shangwa no sonsha. Nyingje sambi midele ya, ko kongro shangwa sonne, ko kiwu mewa chasha, aze mide nyingje sambi ke, nyingje samtawe na, da midele ya, gyunji de, pe dukja re sambi samda ligma re, male banza, 미디 콘르의 샹원의 소샤 콘르 라원 메바 교르 닝제다 코 콘르 계제 콘르의 라원 메방알에 직수보다 균지제바 디뇨와레 미디라 닝제 삼베게 삼마케바 있나 데니 미디리아 아주 세바 콘르 기게 말 제자 데니게 삼다에도 아주레 미디를 세바곰 투고레 제자 데니게 삼마다 미디를 균장야 삼다 고용알에 직수셰도 고용알에 두제 지구 삼베 삼다 디타바이나 미디를 콘르랑게 세바곰 투마레 제자 미디리아 코로나샤 코로르 샹원도 규시 미들라 라와면도 닌자 삼베게 삼다베나 단 만주기 세베냠레 제투고레 제네 연장 만주기 녜레네 미가네신나다 소소리아 소소 코로나나 코로 왕기 샹리아 직접 드라마를 견제 제바도 동남 유독셰 좀 차기도 디나시 미스 수도 수이나 코로나서나 안에 측이 넘규르다 직독제셔다 라와메 말와 삼베게 삼다두스 장도 제바이나 아니 미기 생기 말이야 소소 견지지도 디갑레 삼노디 덴투고 오다고 코로나 사이드 라와요 말 아직 닝제 삼베 삼게베네 데네 고파 코로나 말 데네 세바곰 투고레 제가 삼노 단하도 두스젠 당고 골와.
In the meditation then, we call to mind a situation, we see where we responded unskillfully, see how that made us feel when we responded in kind to the other person. And so here now we've got two determinations. One, to cultivate patience. Two, not to be overwhelmed by anger, because we've seen the benefits of the one and the faults of the other. Then one comes to the third part of the meditation, how to actually cultivate patience. So again, the mind of patience is a determination for the mind to stay undisturbed in the face of adversity. So when one is patient, one's mind is calm. No matter what outer turmoil or inner turmoil one is encountering, one's mind is calm. This does not equate to being a doormat, to someone who takes abuse from others. Rather, it means that one's mind is calm, and therefore one can respond skillfully. So this is what we're trying to develop, such an outlook. So to cultivate patience, we're still employing the same illustration that we had called to mind. And we then continue our role play, and we think about this actual situation and the person who was speaking to us in an abusive manner. For them to speak to us in that way, their mind was disturbed. Their mind was overwhelmed by afflictions, most probably anger. It could have been pride, could have been very strong attachment to have things go their way, but it may well have been anger. Whichever of these it was, we don't even need to precisely identify. What we know is that this person speaking to us in an abusive way is suffering. Their mind is overwhelmed by the afflictions. They are a person just like me who longs for happiness. And now, whilst they are overwhelmed by the afflictions, they are suffering. Their mind is tormented. So this being before me, perhaps with bulging eyes and a red face and a wagging finger, they are in pain. They are in pain. So here in our meditation, if we think like this, compassion will arise for the suffering person, recognizing that they have lost control. They are under the control of the affliction, probably anger. They have no freedom. They are experiencing intense pain, hence they're acting in such an unskillful manner. Thinking like this, compassion arises. And this is the required basis, the prerequisite for a patient response. A mind that is undisturbed, because now we feel compassion for this person. So we are meditating, we're not in an actual situation, but we're recalling something that actually did happen, and we're feeling compassion for the suffering person before us. Now this is a very different way from how we actually responded at the time, because at the time when anger arose within us, we saw this person before us as pervaded by faults. We saw them as completely awful, as everything about them was bad. No good qualities in them appeared to us. We only saw faults in the person at that time. Hence, our strong afflicted response. Now, with a calmer attitude, compassionate attitude, a patient attitude, we're seeing the person in a different light. We recognize in this person yearns for peace of mind. But right now, they're burning inside, burning with rage. Hence, we feel compassion for them. Hence, we feel patience for them. Now we rest with this feeling of compassion and patience towards this person. And this then strengthens our habituation to a patient response, and has come about in dependence on using analysis, investigation. And this, therefore, is using reasoning and wisdom to cultivate patience.
Kiawanga me legi tibure sisanda kiawanga manga denegi nazinyonga le sasa le gyusasa di tibu di mingores dade mimba de ngalia dade ngaz mire sisanda dade de mimba in nazi chungwa na ngalia tawshi daya yor menju chia karena chinganzo tawshi chia yores sisanda di ya disha sko legi ru minje maomba no nyongo ma chada dade mimba de disha sambe samdang de mina ko kanga de chunga chegore denegi sammatawena ta nedla ta ngada ne nazutune daya na pesa kanga shudo du samdan semle makiwa chegore 제가 denegi legi debure mingora da dade minje maombananga debu dunga nyom moya chegore da disha sambe du신 samdashabena 저기 dunga 달랭이 쇠바세디 차로 되는자 semle 안 강아 중화 리그리에서 sam다하 직식으로 와디네시
That was an illustration then in accordance with the first of the three types of patience. Now, another illustration in accordance with the second type, in relation to the suffering that arises in one's own continuum, but not in relation to others. So, for example, if one is ill, or perhaps one has been ill for some time or in quite some pain, then usually one's mind becomes really upset about this, frustrated. Maybe one's mind becomes weak and dispirited, thinking about what's happening, how we can't fulfill our responsibilities, or that this situation is permanent. So here we need to change our way of thinking. So the steps are different from before, because the source of the anger is different, but they have one thing in common. What we're trying to do is take our unwholesome habitual way of thinking that is not in accordance with reality and intentionally shift our way of thinking so that it is in accordance with reality. So in this case, we recognize that the illness that I'm now suffering, the pain that I'm now suffering, is a karmic ripening result, which means in a previous life I accumulated a karmic seed, and this now is ripening. That is the situation. It's not anything beyond this. It's not something unfair, unwarranted. This is a ripening result of a deed performed in a past life. That negative karmic imprint right now is being purified. And it's being purified through being experienced in a lifetime, in a life form, where I have the capacity to not only suffer, which is how for most beings they can only suffer because they lack a mental skill like we have as humans. In this life form, I can deal with this suffering. I may not be able to heal myself. Maybe the medical treatments I'm receiving will work, maybe it won't, but I can transform my way of thinking, my way of relating to this illness. So again, what we're doing here in the second illustration, like in the first, is we intentionally uplifting our mind through relating to the situation in a way that is in accordance with reality.
Na shen li ro che da shen li pemba tu shen gi dan da liang zo gang a ji de ni diang ji gang a te de sim le ma ji ba pe bu sto ba sim ma ji ba cha da na Gabriel yang a ju gi che gom ja da che nyam le lob chong che che gi lob chong che de Gabriel ya gi wi ja wa ji de Gabriel ya lu da sim le gang a de ma ji ba cha da deng a xin gi min do sim bi ge sim le ma ji ba cha da de shen li ro ba che shen li pemba shen gi gang a se lo ro ba ji de o da deng a gang a deng a ji tu min do da Kidina di Jeho Sempeke Ganga do Sempe Sam Davena, and do some of the Yane and Davena and the Ganga shoot church to go. Jesan Denigi, Samlo Sem to go, Jesuo come to go, Mare. Jesan Denigi Matu by the Yadi, Sem Leshishi Devadilla, Dunga Darling Sebasi. Denigi Sem Leshishi, Yadi, Yohalea, and some of Kartan was Tapshi Kariore Labna. And Denigi Jalia, O Tangi Jalia, Pembache, the Robache, the Bemas Yakures, Tangidi. Yahushures, Janus Bata Sanke the Chasang and Shalia, Pemberdugore, Chale Dinangores, Miss Janus Bata Shangi, Dunda, Shangi Dunga Sea, Ganga, Digi to be Lu Chimbata or the Ranga Lu that the Chasan Jeja, Ganga, Luchasan, Lavata, Chada, Shada, the Nigga Chimbatajan, the Luchasan Jej and Nangores. Just that the Nigga Shalia. Digi to Yada, Consul Dunga said, the Consul Pantoji of Kohara, must say Yapore, Janus Big Sanji, Juba, the Timbic Java, the Ichigores, some big Denic, some Tavana, and Anatulia, and Pobaki Gore, Pobaki, some Matuba to Pobaki. And Dinashi, I think he didn't Chavan and Digi gave him. Kola Pingore, Dimen Big Kawati Savan, Soso Ranagi, Subi Yamlin Chawa, Subi Yamlin Chavana, Sanji go want to play Tayan to Gores, Chizanki Wachima in there, and Chiga Yakuyun Gores, Deneza, May the Niki Shengi to the Ganga Seada, Digi to a Ganga Katsuna, or the Nejakazi to Jena, Jetusa Resa, Je. Dunda Chimbu Shuresha, Sabe, then he didn't cheat to Bemas Yakureta, some Tabana, Bobakian, Bobakivana, Sosolia. Semdi and Shumbali Mare, Shumba Malevan, Dineza Semdi, Matubaje, and Sem Leshi to body, Duna Darling Sevadi, they come to war. Chesa Dineza, Kotum says some dot initiated Yapur, Dinig Lega de Yapuresha, some big do, Pando you big some down, do, and then the Duna Darling Sevo come to war. Delia, there's some do tango in Sarah.
In straddling the second and third types of patience, we can look at two illustrations together. Sometimes when helping others, for example, we experience problems ourselves, maybe the way that others respond to us, taking us for granted, being ungrateful and so forth. Or when we engaging in other forms of Dharma practice, such as trying to transform our way of thinking and seeing how difficult it is, despite keeping repeatedly meditating on a topic, how difficult it is to change the mind, or trying to study a topic and understand something difficult, how difficult this may be. So how to deal with these situations then is the discomfort we're feeling, the frustration we're feeling, maybe the feeling of it's too difficult, I'm going to give up. The sense of this weakness of mind, this dispiritedness that arises, this suffering only exists in our mind and only exists because of our way of thinking. And this we need to recognize, because when we recognize that my frustration, my annoyance, my dispiritedness, my feeling of giving up, it's only consciousness, it's nothing more. It's only a way of thinking. When you recognize that, it releases its grip it has on us, because we recognize that we can change our mind. We just think about the situation differently. Here now, we once again are thinking in accordance with reality, and this gives us confidence, strength of mind. So we remind ourselves that, for example, when helping others or training on our own through meditating and studying, we are an ordinary being. We are interacting with ordinary beings. Therefore, their response, my response, both will be that of an ordinary being. Nothing here is surprising. When our role models, the great bodhisattvas, when they're interacting, trying to be of benefit to ordinary beings often will show no gratitude. Will take them for granted too. Will push them away despite them wanting to help them in an ideal way. And the Bodhisattva doesn't give up. The Bodhisattva doesn't become dispirited, but takes us as an opportunity to strive to develop ever more inner strength and to be of ever greater benefit to others. Or when the Bodhisattva's striving hard to realize a difficult topic or understand a difficult topic, they will not be frustrated, but rather approach the difficulty by recognizing the deepness of their habituation to unwholesome ways of thinking, and thereby give them strength of mind to continue to persevere, knowing that change will follow through perseverance. So here, we're recognizing that our problem is only consciousness, in that it's a way of thinking, and therefore it can be changed. This gives us a strength of mind and a confidence that we can do something. Moreover, we also think about the benefits that come to others. Even if they're rejecting our help or they're taking our help for granted, benefit comes. If not directly to them, through our spiritual development and our connection we're creating with them, in this or future lives, we will be able to be of ever more benefit to them. So here what we are doing is we are turning our attention away from me and my problems onto the benefits that my endeavors are bringing to others now and in the future. So by no longer being focused on my hardships, but on the benefit that our endeavors are bringing to others now and in the long term, we have inner confidence, strength of mind to continue with our perseverance, with our endeavors. And this too is a mind of patience, because now the mind again is undisturbed in the face of adversity.
Lama Chivanalia, and Dena Chizun Lama Tujian, Dena Chizun Lama Tujian, Malutala, Dena Chizun Lama Tujian, Mayu Dirip Tungogun, Malu Tala Mimbata, Dagetigation La Tawai, Joga did that in Bachinulas, Chago Sungro. Dena Chizulama, 6 years. Donda di Karasungosene, and the Tonlingi, Gomnan Sungore, Tonling Gomna. Chesa Donda, Dena Chizulama, Tujice, Mayu to Dirip Tungo, Malu Tala Mimba, Dagetele Shatawa. Lama la so at the go, Lama Be, Tujice, and Jamna, Ze Wangi, Simjan Tam Jigi, and Duhadi Chasa, Nalia Minche. Malia Yonche, Simjan to Dumati Seche, Consumo, Digionche, Nalami Bashos. They may give it our condition to be in the D, give it our Tibu Digitasa, Consolion shows. The Lami does now roches, those in the Jingi Labroches, they are so at the Goro. Chesan Delia, you Tonlingum Gore, Tonlingum Yodu, Shangi, Duma de Rangia, Rangi Digidi, give it with Pa, Jan Pa Tang. Dusen Donling Kumgor. Digom de Suvinium the Chagor, Suvinium the Kugor, the Doningum. Carson, Shangy, Rangi Dunga de Maze, Shangy Dunga as a dandole and Gisun, Delia sem Machuba, Gama, but into Hugh, gay, the Gum, some time do, Nedelia Suvinium Ligore. Just a Rangi Digi gave it our Carina di Devochasa, Digi Shanna taking Sibedelia, Suvinium Lemena, Chesa, Suvinium Nogotonga, Gyatso de la Suvinium Nogochesa, Dingoso Soya de. Only Yamnecha Sungor, the Ine Dila, Yum do Suvinium to school, Suvinium Mena, this is Tolan to get to go Martineza, and Duschene, and then answer it. Molam Jashus and Manamji Duschin, Molam Japche, Dina Jinji, and Yamnechigor. This is an answer that Delia, that it do not darling you Seba said in the Jawacha Yuba Chagore.
I want to recite a verse from the Lama Chopa, which is very closely related to the practice of patience, although it's not explicitly mentioned, and that's a verse on the Tonglen practice, the taking and giving practice. So the 95th verse in the Lama Chopa. Please bless me, venerable compassionate gurus, so that all karmic debts, obstacles and sufferings of mother beings ripen upon me right now without exception, and that I give my happiness and virtue to others, and thereby invest all beings in bliss. So here, in this verse, first one in one's meditation turns one's mind to one's spiritual teachers and recites, "Please bless me, venerable, compassionate gurus." So here we're making supplications to our Lama for their blessing, with the understanding that the meaning of blessing is we're asking for their inspiration so that we can continue with energy and enthusiasm in our spiritual development, in our mental transformation. So we're calling to mind our role models, those who we strive to emulate, and asking for them to continue to inspire us so that we can make endeavor in our spiritual transformation. And then the verse continues, "So that all karmic debts, obstacles, and suffering of mother beings ripen upon me right now without exception." So this is the practice of taking. And here we're asking for inspiration so that in our training we can cultivate the required strength of mind so that we can meet all hardships in life, whether they are hardships that we meet from our relations with others, or from our own inner turmoil, or when we're practicing the Dharma, that all these hardships, may I take these on for the sake of others, which means, may I transform this suffering into the path to enlightenment. May I take any potential arisal of an affliction and skillfully deal with it, and thereby accumulate the causes of happiness rather than the causes of suffering within me. This is what it means to take on the suffering of others. And then the verse continues, "And that I can give my happiness and virtue to others, and thereby invest all beings in bliss." So the fourth line, "and that I give my happiness and virtue to others." So here we're recognizing that through their inspiration, as skillful practitioners now of Tonglen, we take on the suffering of others, we deal with the anger that they're showing towards us, or the ingratitude, and we generate virtue by, instead of getting angry ourselves, we generate compassion towards them. Or if we're training on our own, and we're feeling dispirited, we generate love and compassion for others to motivate us to continue in our meditation or in our study and so forth. And this virtue that we're generating in dependence on others, we now give to others. So the taking was to skillfully deal with the difficulties we face, and you transform those into the path to enlightenment and accumulate virtue. And now that virtue that we've accumulated in dependence on others, we offer to others. We offer this virtue to them with aspiration, may it ripen on their continuum, and that's the last line, and thereby invest all beings in bliss. May it ripen on their continuum so they achieve the bliss of enlightenment. So this then is how we practice Tonglen, but to be able to do so, we have to practice patience. In dependence on our training of patience, we can practice Tonglen. But if our mind is overwhelmed by the afflictions in response to harm, we cannot take on any more suffering, because we can't deal with the suffering that we have. So therefore, the practice of patience, the generation of love and compassion for others, comes together with the practice of Tonglen. That then brings us to the third line. Now I've been lost. Okay, yeah. So the third line. "Against its enemy, the snake of anger, it is a Garuda soaring in the sky." So against its enemy, the snake of anger, patience is a Garuda soaring in the sky.
And the dreid again, and the dinner, Jakunga pa, Kajin, Consecutive, Kanchelo, Julia, nobody and never so Jakungi, Jigo, Regerwada. And Dinashin, Tangan to get contra the Duinashin Pelaja. Chazan to contra the Pakaya, the Mevasuada, teach head the Sushi, 쇠바디 냠는지고 제가 쇠바디 남가 딩나신 자큐나신 쇠비디기 냠는디기 아니 콘트 까투고 그래 콘트 매바 쇠투고 그래 제가 디세 그래 제가 남가 딩sen 자큐라 그러와 남가바 푸르데 제가 자큐 나신디 쇠비 냠는데스 라토는 주의나지르자 주의를 매바 쇠니 자큐 제바나죠 콩초디 라토 나신 콩초디 매바 쇠니 쇠비 냠는지는 매바 쇠도 까투 그래서 쇠 까투 그래서 그래
Again, the third line, against its enemy, the snake of anger, patience is a Garuda soaring in the sky. A Garuda then is a mythical bird that is said to eat snakes. So here in the analogy, the mythical bird, the Garuda that eats snakes, the mythical bird of Garuda represents patience. So patience soaring in the sky is what kills its enemy. And the snake here is the enemy and it represents anger. So patience is so just like a Garuda kills its enemy, the snake, so too does patience eliminate its enemy of anger.
난 직접 천라 사회 고차 인서 직접 천라 사회 고차 인서의 직접 세야 되는 천나신 변에 다단 뒤단 되는 나신체 다 사회 고차라도 다 쇠바디래 쇠비 냠는데 사회 고차 생각 중에 배 자루보다 투부 휴직 착고 휴직 대권 주불 권바이나 되는게 가지고 천단 다단 그렇지 수마로와 까투고로와 지사 되나진 천나신의 직접디 천나신지 사회 고차 되는 자게나 둘로 나신디 쇠비 냠는지 지사 쇠비 냠는 약고 제반은 소수의 쇠비 권바이 미 직접까지 시에나 소설에 강을 쳐 말해지래 강아지 가서는 자 투구 둘로 좀 천나 다가 주나 먼저는 나자다 강아 지금 말와 디나신 수매반자 디나신 아주 쇠배 냠는 제반 현기 직접다 견주 제반에 소설에 셈마기바다 셈 추바데 되는 용 말에서 세상에
The fourth line, against the weapon of harsh words, it is the strongest armor. So the analogy here is quite clear. That in days gone by, then soldiers would wear armor to protect themselves against weapons. So here, the weapon that others use against us, for example, harsh words, the armor that protects us from pain and suffering that these can incur is the mind of patience. So someone who's skilled in patience, their mind will stay calm and peaceful no matter what others say to them or how they act towards them. So through the meditator, through having recognized that it is the afflictions that cause pain, they recognize that patience is what will protect them against their own afflictions, because it's the response to what others say and what others do that causes pain, not the mere words or behavior. And the best protection against one's own afflictions, such as anger, is the cultivation of the mind of patience.
난 맨날 상황 중에 고스코르송와다 제소다 마음에 권여로 두고 멤다다 소마수이 머수이 둘라 권여로 어디로 세고라서 쇠배 냠는데 나 쇠바디 되니기 냠는데 다 지바래서 그러다 고샤셔야 돼.
These days, armor takes different forms. Sometimes it takes the forms of bodyguards. So in the same way, we can relate to the cultivation of patience as being like a bodyguard protecting us from harm.
대다르시네 쇠쇼 고차라 남바나서 술지 공부하세 세디 대다르시네 세네 제상 수비 냠는 제바이나 소설이야 현기 네버기바이네 소설에 셈마추바 강아멜레바 소수게 소설이야 강아 체바이네 안지게 쇠바 공부이나 강아 마요와 제상 세다들레 펜바 라신니가레 펜바 개와 치마인 파바 탈바다 탐지kimbe 고방토레 펜디게 데니기 수비 냠는데 빼마세게 데니기 임바 되나 된바 임바데 시에네서 데네 시에네 데네 수비 고차 촉스데 당아 주게 강아세 둥아기 뇽몽바게디 다 냠는지에 대 강아세야를 약속하되 수비 냠는지 지산 수비 냠는지 인자 디 하고와 데니기 Nibo Chimbo, Yenden, then you by the Hagowa Cheche, Delia, the Nigga number na so said you, Yumten, number Mambu, one some of the Tanjene, some of the Tanjene, so by the Kumhores, Comparses, no Kumhores.
The final two lines. Knowing this, by all means possible, habituate yourself with the armor of supreme patience. Knowing this, then this refers to recognizing the great need for patience, the many benefits for patience, as well as the great danger of the afflictions. The great benefits of patience, or benefits of patience, comes to oneself as well as all others. The benefits of patience is experienced in this life as well as future lives. So knowing this, by all means possible, habituate yourself with the armor of supreme patience. So we are referring straight back to the previous analogy, recognizing that patience is the supreme armor protecting us against suffering, protecting us against pain and misery. Because a mind that is patient and undisturbed in the face of adversity, no matter what adversity one encounters, whether it's from others, whether it's one's own inner turmoil, whether it's in one's Dharma practice, one's mind will stay peaceful and calm and can deal skillfully with the situation. Hence, it's the supreme armor. Knowing this, by all means possible, and all means possible means analyze, investigate, generate a sense of curiosity about one's own mind, and analyze and investigate, call to mind specific situations, and see, why did I respond in that way? How could I respond more skillfully? And again, analyze. And based on reasoning, one will be able to transform one's way of thinking. So that's the meaning then of these two lines. Knowing this, by all means possible, habituate yourself with the armor of supreme patience.
Dene dada sube nyamne se mazi ge chimbo shu chago ro da dene za dang zu sube nyamne se de jina jidang a zulya rangxin gi zhuang chube gen ji ne na za yang ya da dene ge gang a ji yong go de di gang le ya dang a zu sube gom ma tube gen ji ne de ge gang a ji rangxin ni ga la gang a ane chimbo chi de go ji za sube nyamne ya go ma ju gi li go ra dene za dang a zu ge du shi ne sube gom ba yi na pen 내가 pen 랑라 pen 샹라 pen 가르가르도 삼다 아니 개와 치매기 저거 공부할 때네 제보 약고 연구해 봐 아니 개와 저거 공부에는 탈바다 탐지 캠프 공부도 다 아니어 주고요 봐 근데 전주선 바다 상계 차상계 수변 냠는진 상계되게 수변 냠는진 냠는 탈친 봐 전주선 바디기네 수변 냠는 지고래서 지자다 람 냠는진 차상계 수변 냠는 지고래서 수변 냠는 마시간 지예요 말 지자 되니 지고 지자는 가 주기 수변 냠는 지에 고거를 빼면서 약고래도 선백에다 라래 펜바 샹래 파바 탈바다 탐지 캠프 고바토라 팽기 개와 치말래 팽기도 수변 냠는 빼야 버려샤 선백에 수변 냠는 집에 펜야 김전 되는 남랑 먹고는 삼당 다 되는 수변 냠는 지도 약보래 삼면 되네 안에 가르쳐 버렸으네 이행기 랑은 뇌바체바데라 다 수변 당내 냠는 세야지 리고로 봐 지스가사 뇌발에 지면이 베서가서 어당아 수변 냠는 지야디 탈바다 탐지 김고 봐 개와 침막이 디기 주비에게 수변 냠는 대빼 마시기 하고 쉬울 되네게 냠는 지야다바디 고용할야지 특수셔야 돼. 된데밖에 뭐 되네 말에 콜에 수비 냠는지야. 빼마서 약보려 사베 미디 말이야 판도 쉬우 주소 말이야. 빼마서게 내가 탈바다 탐지 김에 고바 토야다. 개워치마 디기 요야다. 다데 디기 요야 그 귀리 끼인디 코에 제소 진짜 코 빼마서 약보려 삼비게 누스지는 삼당고 그래서 아니 미코로나 삼나데 가지고 다 코코상아 특수라디야 코로나 랑마 자와기네 요마르 코 셈나려 셈투 코 코로나데 셈 콘트리 샤완도 소마지 미코로나 랑와 유네미도 아제 닌제 셈비게 콜레 닌제 삼다 도 삼다제 가지고 도 제베네 세베 냠네 제베나 아니 가지고 세베 냠네기 디하고 용도 그래 제가 김제 망보 삼다 제바 제도스는 김제 망보서 연된 통화도 아니 세베 냠네 데 랑신기 도스는 약불리 그래 세도 도 숨도
In order to generate a patient outlook within ourselves, we need to recognize the benefits of patience as well as the faults of the afflictions. Recognize that our suffering comes about in dependence on our way of thinking. Whether this is from others, how we respond to it, how we relate to it, is mental. And this is what creates our suffering. And even in terms of our own inner turmoil, whether we are unhappy about something or we're ill and we're ill in the way we relate to our physical pain and illness, this compounds our suffering. So recognizing this, we recognize that the source of our pain and misery is not those around us or things happening within us, such as illness, but rather our own afflictions, how we think about things. Recognizing this is freeing. It's liberating in the sense that we are now thinking more in accordance with reality, in that we're recognizing the source of our pain is our afflictions. We also then need to be clear on the benefits of patience, understanding that being patient is not being a doormat, but it's a mind that is undisturbed in the face of adversity, and it comes about in dependence on a feeling of compassion for others, a feeling of love for others, a wish through having seen the faults of the afflictions as well as having love for others, to take all the hardships we encounter and transform our way of thinking, transform problems into the path. Thereafter, seeing the benefits of patience as well as the faults of the afflictions, we also recognize that to the extent we develop patience, benefits come to ourselves in this life and benefits to others around us. And through the karmic seeds we create, our spiritual development speeds up. We will experience more happiness in our future lives. Through our cultivation of love, compassion, and patience, the attainment of bodhicitta nears. And with the attainment of bodhicitta nearing, so too does enlightenment itself. So in this way, we develop a strong aspiration to become a patient person and to cultivate that within us and to have it as a key part of our daily meditation. A further benefit then that comes from patience is how we relate to others. Most people have a certain group of people they feel a closeness with and an affinity, and others a feeling of distance or dislike towards. But as one trains in patience, we transform how we relate to others. Even those who give us a hard time, who act to us in an awful manner now or have so in the past, through cultivating patience, we develop love and compassion for even them. And as we cultivate patience in us ever more, it transforms how we relate to others. We start to feel a sense of closeness for all. Those that we know well, those that we previously disliked, those whom we don't know well yet in this life. We feel a sense of closeness towards all, and we feel no distance or apprehension towards anyone. So this too is another benefit that comes from developing patience.
사제 강바 춘춘지바치 사제 춘춘지마도 매베네 세베 냠는 곰 세버 곰투고네 미망고 숑그레제레 강바 춘춘 나라 미망고 숑그레스 강바 첨부 지역에네 세버 곰마도네 미망고 숑 말에 미직 마도 숑 말에 제레 제가 가르스네 디나제 강보 춘춘이나 뒤서데 뜻가 강보 지야데 딘주도 차상기 강할 맞은 바지 강한데 쇠두고네 안 상하게 차상 차월나 상하로 지나 두 스튜디오 빼내가서 겨울미지 송주슈도 갈미 상하 슈치데 제 상하에나 두 책비마 되네지는 이미 얘가 되고 알았으네 송주슈에기 되지는 강할 맞은 바지 강하들이야 쇠두제 쇠제 그 세보검 두고라 검지 되고라 다 딘디게 세보검마든 아데데 되서 강하데 배도 치료 된도 와데 강하슈도 된도 와 되고 말아 안디나싱아 저 강바 춘춘이네 저게 차상을야 세보 공부했네 차상을 세보 공부했네 장하나신 차상 두스인데 되바 기우레스는 되바는 차상 강아 디나 숑고레지레 지자데 세보 공부하면 코라서데 아당 아기우용면도 지지지지지서 세균 세마든 강바 지첨부 주변에 미직마도 돼야라고 말했지 가서는 어다디 켜 기시망오시기도 세다 켜 야고 지금 반 비제네든 소지집을 하기로 했어 되기래서 제가 세베 냠레에나 강보 춘춘지네 미망고 숑그리스 세베 냠레 맨제마도나 강보 첨부 주변에 미직마도 숑 말해지네
there's an expression that a patient person can have many people can squeeze inside a patient person's home, but someone who's not a patient person living in a large home, they will not tolerate many people in their house. So, for example, if one values teachings, for example, if we go to His Holiness's teachings, so many people value his teachings. They're all squeezed together in a particular space, and even if that space is large, they'll squeeze together, especially if you've attended his teachings in India, you'll know this is the case. People don't mind. Everyone's happy because they're focused on the preciousness of the opportunity of receiving these teachings from His Holiness and joy that they can share this with others. Even though the people around them are almost sitting on their lap, everyone is the joyous outlook. But if someone is not patient and they live in a large and spacious home, thinking primarily about themselves, they will not tolerate many people coming into their home. Hence this expression. A patient person can squeeze many people into their small home. Someone who's not patient will not tolerate even a few people in a large home.
That's 당아 저 초카리 제베네 수저 레가 제베네 수베냠네 소수기 민야 지게 되서 펜수이네 파셔들레 자자 파셔들레 지배 지게 기시야다 되서 지 딱딱다서 조서데 제베네 어다서서 세보고만 아디 게디나 기초지도 선배 콘라이다 셈마기와 차이로와 세보고만 안디네 지가요 말씀베게 세보고음투번 가고시 강아시요 말와 당아서 세보고음투나 셈데 강아치 말와 디네 자당 한쪽에 세베 냠는 제마도 했더니 펜신 막조게 디용고래 파조 지 미스리제다 디네 세보고마도 용고래 나 지게 징을 투보자래 고하다 제자들 세베 냠는 돈에 마티 비킹이리고 다 소소라랑 양치까지 소소랑 강아서 셈 shum네 shum파 shum네 다 미잉알 찍라고래 찍라균지 찍고 셈베게 되네 세베 냠는 제마도 받지 그래서 소소 강아지 소소 쇠두고 말어 제자 되네 자 될야 셈마 shum비급래 뽑아 끼고래 뽑아장 뽑아끼네 되네 안되네기 뽑았다는 되네 세베님네 강아지 동아단리 세바셔야 돼 제자 되네 남반나 소유고네 되데 남반나 소유 출류 공부하자서 김진 망부 삼다지 되네 되네 이 세보 공부 파연 세보 공부 파연 대디 내가 파연 망업에 파연 타바 담제 기부 공부 파연 안도 세삼당에도 되네 내가 세보 공부 유딜해야 어디 약벌에 생각 세보 고요 고갑시부라서서 아니 지금 저기 데리아 안에 지게捐통고 말데 연대동어 되네 인자 되네 인자 되네기도 술로 장이 되네 샹리아 강아 망부 예설마시 장시선바디게 강도데 강아 예설 망부 예설레 마페지네 두시네 쇠베냠네 나지 샹레 샹네 두고 제가 강아 망부 예설라 강아 예설데레 바 친지 되는 것을 바 친데리아 판도 주야기 용두거 데 쇠베냠네 비제나 오프기던데 강아 시브랑아 두고메 지진에 가 시에냐 지진에가 띵아 나기레스 나 두고메세 제가 저 도투고 말데 쇠베냠네 메바 지선 쇠베냠네까지 제도면에 되네 샹리아 녀바다 강아 예설 파고서 라레 다지고서 대리아 판도 주의하게 개발 연구소로 왔다고네. 저지선바티게도 능고로와 지상아주 이내다 아주 두스는 로장고고로 왔다가서 아주 장마도 두스네. 근데 로장바이네다 다지게 아주 장바이는 아주 쇠베되어서 여러 왔다가서 맞을 쇠바도 여여 버래. 아주 쇠바 충충지 여다 이내 당 아주 두스진다 대리아 추다 류다 안디지게 약고치루베네 야뉴바 cher셔도야 책으로 제가 되네 장안 저기 야네 양도 삼다 김제 삼다 있는 야네 공바이나 당한도 출루가 나신 거 뉴바 cher셔도야 주주고로 되네 다야 돼 가지고 계체 뭐시고 차고随便 냠래 여봐나 안디 샬리아 펜버투비아 안디 셴기 로체야 셴유 동아세야 안디 샬레 디기 두야기 탑람디에 가서 배셔 당 라란다 두고래随便냠래 메나 디스 차사 용바데 땡아 유셔서 안디 지 随便 냠래 여봐나 아주 최 냠래 지야 곰 냠래 지야 돼 디야 야고 용 두고래 随便 냠래 지 메나 어다디지 강아도 딘지 기우민도 참념 줘야라기면 사실도 생한테 자세거로와 니네자 안도시네 랑기 디니게 쇠베 냠는 돈을 이고로 지자다 쇠베 냠는 배 계신 버 진짜 계신 무슨 가서 다 쇠베 냠는 거셔야 돼. 잘 숨서 지지 셰발 되는 쇼 인자당 차상기 되는 홀이야 안에 강도 지두기 냠내 쳐야 돼 하나 당아 찾아 지봐 되니 교화를 제가세 시고만다 디랍제디 안 다디 야와스남 제소단 지 제름 지가도 랍세나샤바 당아도 차상기 당아도 디톨이야 당아도 지바래 돼 장아주도 강도도 아서 차사 지어야 돼 예치모 차고로 와다 다케지 길림 곰금 람사다 제가 약보다 투모가다 직직게 돼 님의 직다데 돼서 곰금부터 춘춘춘춘이야 진짜되니 고 야야야 철철 누구 누가 철철 누구라 근데 추티바 사바나 지루와 추티바레레 게나 그 유서전 티베지 캡니 야 숨접도 지나 가zam질 님의 망고질레데 그 다다 차루고 차야차여와 당번에 그 티베지 이제는 강말와 디로셔와 제자당 차상 한 디링이 가서 쳐야 돼. 도시네 수빈님네다 디링 봐. 차례 디젤 양즈다. 마음보다 존중이 냐면 다디 발전 중에 나네 진바 수준 써봐. 다시 봐 존중이 냐면 디걸 마셔야 돼.
Just before I present what Genla has said now, just want to present something from my own side, which may be useful. Because something that never really comes up in teachings is the concept that fits here, and that is of forgiveness, of either forgiveness of self or other. And the reason it never comes up is, well, there are a few, I suppose, but one is the word for forgiveness is the same word as patience. So when one reads a book on patience or hears a teaching on patience, understand that the concept of forgiveness is included in there. It's not mentioned because it's going to be the same word, so a translator will hear the word of patience and say that, but it may, in that context, forgiveness may be more suitable. So in speaking with Genla about it before, he agreed with how we generally would use the word forgiveness as opposed to patience, but also he said, when in the context of patience you'll hear about love and compassion. Take love and compassion in this context also as sometimes having the meaning of forgiveness or the applicability. So, forgiveness of oneself, love and compassion towards oneself, forgiveness towards others, patience towards others. So in this way, as a hearer of teachings, a reader of books, when you come across the word patience, recall that sometimes forgiveness may be a more appropriate word in that context. Okay, now on to what Genla said. So this training of patience is of great importance. We've seen it in this verse tonight. I've spent, this week is our 4th week that we've been looking at it. And it is so important for so many reasons. The afflictions arise in us continuously. They arise in us when we at work and we having interactions with customers and clients or with fellow colleagues. Afflictions arise in us when we're with our loved ones and with our friends. Afflictions arise in us when we're out in society. And they arise in us when we're alone at home or even somewhere quiet, beautiful and peaceful. And in all these instances, we need to rely on the mind of patience. Because the mind of patience is a mind that's undisturbed in the face of adversity, and the adversity is the arisal of afflictions. So it's through training in being patient that our mind will be undisturbed at the arisal of the afflictions, whether they are arising in dependence on our interactions with others, our own inner turmoil, or in the context of our spiritual development, those 3 classes of patience. And to the extent that we endeavor in our cultivation of the patient attitude, as we become more habituated to patience, become a more patient person, a person who is undisturbed in the face of adversity, we will not have conflicts with anyone. Others may express their afflictions towards us, but from our side, we'll only feel love and compassion for this person. We will not have a relationship of conflict with anyone. An individual may despise us, but from our side, we'll feel a closeness to them, a warmth towards them. And the way we respond to anyone will be from a place a motivation of love and gentleness. Even if we deem it appropriate to be strong and assertive in a particular instance, our mind will be gentle and calm and loving towards this person. Being such a person, of course, is inconceivable benefit for ourselves then and there in terms of our own happiness. In most cases, we will ease the suffering and pain that others feel, as others see us as a patient person. Merely seeing us will cause their mind to calm. The karma that we create is extremely powerful because the practice of patience really is the practice of love and compassion. The expression of it will also involve wisdom. And therefore, we create powerful, virtuous imprints that will aid our spiritual development in this and life to life, bring about the rapid attainment of bodhicitta and thereby Buddhahood. Another transformation we'll find within ourselves is an inner strength and confidence. Life will not overwhelm us anymore. No matter what life throws at us, and we've all experienced many hardships, and more will follow. But as we develop patience, those will not be hardships anymore. No matter what illness we experience, what grief in our life, we will not suffer. We will be strong, and because we are strong, we'll be confident. Not strong as in resilient, but strong in that we see that even in a situation that in the past we reacted in a particular way, now our mind is spacious. Love and compassion arises within us, and an understanding of reality arises within us. This is how we will be confident. And for this to come about, we need to rely on analytical meditation primarily. And we do so in the way that I outlined tonight, role-play illustrations from your life. Especially call to mind those that still have an emotional resonance with one, where one feels guilt about one's own behavior, or where one feels resentment about the behavior of others. Call those to mind. Feel that emotion arising within one. Recognize that is all it is. It's a consciousness that is ripening. Independent on recalling a past event, an emotion, a suffering emotion has arisen. Maybe guilt, maybe resentment. That's all it is. Recognize it for what it is. Think then about if it's another other person. Generate love and compassion for them in the way that I presented earlier. And where we're seeing success in our meditation, remind ourselves we are training just like our teachers and all the bodhisattvas are. And generate confidence that we are spiritually developing, becoming like them. Where we are feeling that transformation is difficult, no matter that I keep trying, remind yourself that all the bodhisattvas in the world were once ordinary like ourselves. They persevered. And the stronger our habituation to a particular way of thinking, whether it's guilt about something or a non-virtuous habituation, the longer we just need to continue going through the same meditations. And just like drops of water into a cup, slowly, slowly, change will come. We're not going to see it today. We may not see it next month. We may not even see it this year. But slowly, change comes. Just like those drops of water falling into a cup. We all have imprints on our continuum for patience. There have been times in our life where there's been adversity and we've dealt well with it. Our mind stayed calm. We can do this. It's not beyond anyone. So what I ask of all of you is to engage in this meditation, include it in your daily meditation, and if you do so repeatedly over a sustained period, I can assure you, change will come. I meditate on patience, and I'll ask you to join me in this meditation. This is how all the great beings, such as Lama Tsongkhapa Rinpoche, whose verse we quoted, as well as the third Dalai Lama Sonam Gyatso, whose book we are studying, they all trained like this, and they became phenomenal beings of great benefit in the world. And we too can become just like that. So thank you. We'll conclude here for tonight. Next week we'll start with the fourth perfection, that of joyous perseverance. So thank you very much.